Hi everyone, I am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and let's leave no dye behind. I have here in my steam pan some leftover water and vinegar that I am about to start heating up, and I just added 100 grams of Knit Picks Hawthorne fingering weight yarn. This yarn is 80% superwash fine Highland wool, 20% polyamide. Now, there is too much water in here and too little yarn for this to be a true low immersion. The yarn is floating a bit. Dyes will be able to hit water and move around, but I thought it would be fun to combine some leftover RIT liquid dyes with some leftover Jacquard acid dyes and see what kinds of patterns, etc. we can create. If you would like some more information about this yarn base or the steam pan, you can find affiliate links in the video description. Let's just go in with some of our leftover acid dyes. I believe that these ones are left over from part of the ChemKnits Hanukkah special. And when I was doing, I think when I did the Capra. And there'll probably still be a lot left. I don't remember if these were diluted or what. That's one of the reasons why this is a leftover dye video. Leave no dye behind. You can see I'm creating something really random. I'm just sort of drawing on top in a random design to give us something fun. And I'm not going to come anywhere close to using up this leftover dye. I might use up these leftover Ritz ones though. Ooh, that's just pretty on its own. Now, RIT dyes work on both wools and cottons, but acid dyes really won't work on cellulose fibers like cotton. And I would just use these RIT liquid dyes on this yarn. However, I've already used the three colors I had left over on a few different videos, so I wanted to mix it up a little bit and bring in some other leftover dyes that I had mixed. And speaking of leftover, when I use the tulip tie-dye kits, I save the bottles. Well, that's pretty. It's really pretty. The yellow and red give this a really nice warmth. I'm really liking it. When layering colors like this, one of the things that we are risking is all of them just completely blending together. If they're hitting the yarn and traveling around, we might not see sort of like small patches of color. We see those in some areas, but we also see that the dyes are starting to spread out as well. Because if the dye is hitting the water first, it will spread further. It is possible that we have some reasonable penetration of the dye to the other side. And you can see that we still do have some color all around. There is a pretty high, I have no idea what the concentration of vinegar is in here. There is vinegar in this water, but the reason why we're seeing things spread out more than we might have in some of the other videos is that there's more water, so that makes a difference. Also, Hawthorne has a really high twist, and so because the twist is high, it takes a little longer for the dye to penetrate into the fibers. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and leave this for 5 minutes, and then we will come back, flip it, maybe move it around, and add some more color. The 5 minutes have passed, and I am really intrigued by this. The colors are spreading and mixing more than they did in the other projects that I dyed today. And I think most of the color is in the yarn right now. So let's go ahead and flip it. But Again, it looks like we got some really, really good color penetration on the other side as well. Now, part of that is a feature of having only one skein in the pan at a time versus multiple, but I mean, this is beautiful. The colors are a little less bright because they're spreading and mixing, but that doesn't mean that they aren't beautiful, that we shouldn't be excited about that. So let's add some more color to this side. At this stage, more color will make things a little brighter, or brighter. It'll make it darker and make it a little moodier. Again, I think that these acid dyes that I have are significantly more concentrated than the RIT dyes that I was using. And so that's something to consider as we proceed. But I don't remember if I diluted the acid dyes. Now I'm onto these RITs. But I do want to use up these RIT dyes. That is one of my goals. Sometimes when I film these leave no dye behind videos, in truth, I'm trying to use up extra dye because, I mean, I don't want to throw it away. I don't want to leave the dye behind, so there's truth to that. Now, sometimes people ask why I don't, take my squeeze bottle or eyedropper and put it in the water. These are plastic bottles, and this is a hot pan, and I don't want things to melt. I think that what you guys are seeing on camera doesn't really do these colors justice. It is delightful. There is just like a special warmth here. Do you want to make sure I'm spreading it out a bit because I don't know. I don't know. Just having some delightful, fun splashing these colors together as I use up this leftover dye. Nope, that was a big squirt. All right, there we have it. There's a lot of dye in here. I want to give this some time for the color to absorb, so let's turn the heat up a tiny bit again, and we'll come back in 5 minutes. All right, after 5 minutes, there's still some color in here, but as I move the yarn around, okay, we're seeing a little more color come out, but ooh, that's actually a really, really pretty rainbowy swirl. But ultimately, most of the color is in the yarn. And we have something that is moody, it is dark, it is just fun. I'm now going to turn off the heat and let this yarn cool here in the pan so then we can wash it. I ended up letting the yarn sit in the pan overnight, mainly because that's just what happened. But now let's wash it. Now the water looked pretty clear in the pan, and there is the barest hint of blue here in the rinse water. But I'm really, really excited about this colorway. I was a little nervous before I started with the idea of mixing, I guess mainly the purple and the teal. And I was nervous about how the purple would interact with the yellow and how the teal would interact with the red. But we have this beautiful, warm, purpley, saturated colorway. And I'm going to want to do this again. We're still seeing a little bleeding, but and I added just some dish soap. But I'm going to keep rinsing this until the water runs clear, which I would expect should take only a couple more rinses. But if I notice anything else, I will let you know. I mean, clearly, that amount of bleeding, given how saturated the yarn is tiny. But anyway, I'll come back when the yarn is dry. This yarn looks like a muted rainbow, and it is absolutely spectacular. I am a little surprised that the colors feel a little less saturated than I thought they were while wet. I mean, things always look lighter when they dry. I just, in my head, felt like that there was going to be a little more saturation here. Nevertheless, the way that these colors layered on top of one another and that these acid dyes worked with the liquid dyes is just beautiful. If you step back and squint, the yarn feels very purple, but there really are rainbows in here, and you can see everything from orange and yellow to blue and green when you look at this yarn. When I was adding the acid dyes to this project, I was a little nervous I would end up with something too red. It's a colorway that I've dyed a lot in the past, red with some subtle tones, and I really didn't want the red and yellow to overwhelm these leftover RIT dyes, because I feel like the acid dyes as a whole are a little more potent and full of color. I am just so unbelievably excited by this colorway, and I really, really hope that I can replicate something like this in the future. That's one of those problems of using leftover dyes. I could probably figure out and maybe estimate how much dye total of each color I threw on. I certainly can find out the mixtures of the approximate concentrations from each of the squeeze bottles. And there's no question that I could achieve something like this layered colorway again in the future. But if I were to go do this again, it might be a little more red overall or a little more blue. So, but I just love, love, love letting go and just throwing colors in a pot and seeing what happens. Here are two other skeins of yarn that we dyed with these RIT liquid dyes. And actually this one did have some food coloring thrown on it as well. So you can see that the red and yellow acid dyes did shift the absolute tone of our Hawthorne sock yarn. I am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and if you enjoy my approach and these videos, make sure you're subscribed to the ChemKnits Tutorials YouTube channel. In addition to these random leftover dye videos, I also have dyeing projects that involve a little more planning in the Dye Pot Weekly series, and I really just have a lot of fun experimenting with different ways to apply color to yarn and sharing the results with all of you so we can all learn together. Are you already a huge, huge fan of ChemKnits? Well, you should consider becoming an official patron. The ChemKnits Patreon offers a lot of really cool perks in exchange for signing up, like early access to new yarn dyeing videos, behind the scenes sneak peeks, monthly polls where you get to vote on what I should create in the next month, and more. You can find a link in the video description and the iCard. Thank you so much for watching.